Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to the lesson on data types. So, data types is basically how your computer or Python understands data. We have a bunch of data types in Python, but we'll just go over the more common ones to start off. So, the first and one of the most common ones is a string, and a string is anything that appears in quotation marks. For Python, it can be either single or double quotes, but if it's in either of these, it's a string. Now, we've used triple quotes before to for a multi-line comment. These are also strings, but we won't worry about those for now. As you continue in your programming journey, you'll see the use cases for these, but don't worry about them at the moment. Next, we have integers, and these are positive and negative whole numbers. So 2, 3, -5, -8. An important thing to note is that these don't appear in quotation marks. So the value 2 in quotation marks would be a string. The value 2 without question marks is an integer. Next, we have floats, and these are basically positive and negative numbers that have decimal places. So 5.3, -3.14. Once again, they don't appear in quotation marks. If these were in quotation marks, it would be a string. To create a float, they must be written without quotation marks. Finally, we have a bool, short for boolean, and this is a special case. It's basically the value true or false. This is case sensitive, so true must be typed in with a capital T and false with a capital F, and ensure that they don't appear in quotation marks. Now, we can check the data type of a value using type. So just as we've used print and input before, there's something called type, and just like before, you use it with open and close parentheses. Inside the parentheses, you can type in the value for which you wish to check the type. So let's just check the type of true in quotation marks and true without quotation marks. Okay, now we need to surround this with a print so that it actually shows us the value that type returns or gets back. So we'll just do that, and I'm gonna run the program now. You see that we get string for the first one and bool for the second one, right? So quotation marks, string, without question marks, bool in this case. Now, why is this important? Well, the data type of a value basically dictates what we can do with the data or how operations are performed on the data. So a simple example of that we saw in the previous lesson was with strings and integers. So in the previous lesson, when we asked the user for the first and second number, so something like that, and then we did print first plus second, we didn't really get the value we expected. So if I were to run this program and I did 5 and 3, 5 plus 3 actually returned 53 in place of 5 plus 3, so that's 8. And the reason for that is these data types. So input by default will give us a string, and in Python, when you add two strings together, they are basically just concatenated or put together. So if I create another print statement down here, and let's say I try to do ASDF plus JKL semicolon, then let's see what we get. We get the two values combined. And once again, that's because in Python, string addition, so when you add two strings, they are basically just put together. Now since input by default supplies us a string, when we do first plus second number, it just puts the 5 and 3 together, which is why we get 53 in place of 8. Now what if we wanted to do addition with the two numbers? What if we actually wanted 8 instead of 53? Well, in that case, we need to convert the values from a string to an integer. So just like in the previous lesson, we convert the string to an integer using int. I'll just do that here. And now if we do the addition, so first number 5, second number 3, we get 8, right? So to convert from one data type to another, we basically have these functions that we can use. So to convert anything to an integer, we use int, open close parentheses, and in here we'll have the value. To convert to a float, we have float, open close parentheses. To convert to a bool, we have this bool function. And to convert to a string, we use str, short for string. So if I wanted to convert this number 2 to a string, I could just do this. If I wanted to convert a string boolean, the string value true into a boolean, I could do this. And let's say we have something like that, something like this. If I were to print all of these, print, there we go. Let's see what we get. Yeah, we don't see much of a difference. So what I'll do is I'll just maybe add in type here so we can see the type. You see the first one is supplied it as an integer, but after conversion we have a string. Second one supplied it as a string, after conversion comes out as an int. Third one float and bool. Yep. So that's how you convert data from one type to another. Now what happens if your data is not valid? So let's say we have the string I and we try to convert it to an integer. Now I is not really a number, so what would Python do in this case? We actually get an error. You see it says value error, so we get an error because I can't really be converted into an integer. So that's all for data types. To recap, data type is how your computer stores and understands data and also figures out what sort of operations you can do on data. We have a few data types in Python, but the more common ones are strings, which are values in quotation marks, integers, which are positive and negative whole numbers, floats, which are numbers with decimal points, and bools, which is the value true and false. To check the data type of something, we use type. Just like we have print and input, we have type. And to convert from one data type to another, we basically surround the value in the data types function. And that's all for data types. Thanks for watching and happy coding.